Hello. We're going to give it a few more minutes before we get started, but thank you for joining. We'll get started in approximately 2 to 3 minutes. Thanks. We'll just give it a few more minutes. Can you put the PowerPoint up? Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining our Hot Topics webinar, Back to School 2022, What's Changed and How to Adapt. We're excited to present this information as we know it's timely, and we're hoping for some good content to be shared with you. As always, please, if you have any questions, type them in the questions tab on the right side of your screen, and if we have time, we'll answer them, or we will answer them as you type them in. Next slide, Al. Okay, my name is Jason Blackwell. I'm the Regional Director of Care Coordination. Assisting with this session is Alan Vaneski, who's a Senior Manager of Community Relations, and Jennifer Clark, Provider Relations Manager. And as we start all of our meetings, the mission of person-centered services connect people to the care, support, and opportunities that maximize their quality of life. Our vision is a community where all people lead fulfilling lives, and our core values are people, integrity, and trust. So we are really excited to have Teresa Viprek and Laura Arrington, who are experts in school-related issues and specifically as it relates to children with disabilities and special education. So we're excited to have the opportunity for them to provide some great information to you. And with that, today's agenda is great, good information and effective communication. Check in on how your child is doing, regression, signs and suggestions, and how to build resilience. And we also have Rachel Martin, who's our Vice President of Care Coordination, who will be presenting as well and sharing the care coordination aspect as it relates to the start of the school year and things that care coordinators can do to assist in creating a positive experience. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Teresa and Laura.
Thanks, Jason. So I'm actually presenting from a different location today, and my bandwidth is not very strong. So I'm actually going to turn my camera off while I present, just so that you know, I don't accidentally get booted off of the presentation. So new year, fresh start. So many of you might already be feeling overwhelmed at the thought of another school year. It can be, you know, a stressful feeling in ordinary times, and certainly, you know, I guess, you know, I think maybe it's safe to say we're at the tail end of the pandemic. You know, still our days are far from ordinary. Next slide, please. So really, we're going to talk about starting. There we go. Thank you. Starting the school year off, you know, on the right foot. As families, you know, and parents and caregivers, we all want our children to be successful. And so a good start, you know, makes success easier. How can we do that? You know, so we really need to think about the fact that, you know, there's new information that's, you know, being presented and emerging all of the time. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about, you know, just being patient as information comes out, and, you know, as it changes, and how to access information that's good information. Next slide. So how to get reliable information. So good, reliable, valid information, and really, you know, that stress on the word reliable, you know, when we're talking about the school year. Next slide. So information can be questionable from different sources, especially when we think about social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you know, Reddit, you know, word of mouth, phone calls or emails from other parents or friends. Maybe they don't live in our area or within our district. Maybe they're from out of state. More often than not, on social media and word of mouth sources, those sources of information can be unreliable, or you know, not rooted in facts. So even though it's hard, try to avoid social media. You know, when you're looking for factual information, you know, and use critical thinking, you know, to evaluate whether or not you know, the information is valid and reliable. Is it true? Because, you know, sometimes, you know, a post on a social media site can sort of like take on a life of its own. So where can you get reliable information? So obviously you can go to your school district's website, their Facebook page, their Instagram, because, you know, they're posting information specific to their schools and their school system, their educational organization. You can go to your local county health department, you know, the parent portal. You can ask your child's teacher or principal, you know, through, you know, telephone, email, text message, Classroom Dojo. You can go to the New York State Department of Education directly for information about, you know, what's changed as far as regulations and you know, different things that are going on with the educational system that year. And if you hear something that's questionable, you know, or, you know, it is upsetting to you, you know, don't jump to conclusions. You know, check it out. Do a little bit of research, you know, and have a conversation with your child's teacher or, you know, the principal before you share it with somebody else, or say, geez, you know what I heard. You know, so don't contribute to the spread of misinformation or rumors, but, you know, do a little fact digging before you share some information that you may not be sure whether or not it's true and valid. Next slide. And, of course, if you're not comfortable using the school's website or you're not totally comfortable with social media, you can always call or email your child's principal, teacher, or another administrator or administrative assistant. So right from the get-go, let the teacher in the school also know the best way to communicate with you. Is that through email? Is it through text? Is it through, calling your cell phone? Are you only available after hours? So set that stage for effective communication, because you, the parent, really are the most influential adult and teacher in your child's life. Next slide. So really, we're going to look for ways to build relationships, and remember that communication and effective communication, of course, is really the key to that. Next slide. I like this quote from Maya Angelou. Says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. We have to remember that we have power in our interactions with teachers, staff, administrators, and care coordinators. At times, when we're communicating, when we're speaking, we can either intentionally or unintentionally send messages that might make someone feel uncomfortable or feel welcome or unwelcome. And especially with the special education process, this can be, isolating and confusing for parents and families. So effective communication really is the key to being able to support your child in achieving common goals. You and the teacher and your school are all working towards your child being successful. So think about communication as being effective when both the sender, the person who's doing the talking, and the receiver, the person who's doing the listening, have a sort of an agreement on, what the message is, and, also considering about how everyone feels about that message. So why is communication important? Because there's a lot of really positive potential outcomes that result from communication. And these also actually tie in with good family engagement. So as parents and caregivers, we want to be engaged with our child's school, with their educational team, and family engagement. Studies have shown that it results in not just what's listed here, but also things like higher grades and test scores, increased participation in more challenging programs at the district level. More classes passed, more credits earned, better attendance, improved behavior at home and at school, better social skills, and adaptation to school. So these improved outcomes, like I said, tie into family engagement, but also building that positive working relationship with your child's team. Next slide. And so when we think about, communication, we also are thinking about the relationships that we're creating and maintaining and sometimes fixing. So those are 3 areas of focus that we're going to talk about next. When we're thinking about our role in our child's educational success. Next slide. So when we talk about building those relationships, establishing them, what do you need to be involved from the beginning? We really need to, reach out to teachers, administrators, anyone that is going to have an important role with your child's learning. Be the first person to, make that first move. Schedule a team meeting as soon as school starts. Obviously, I'm not saying like, the first day, but, say like, hey, I want to touch base with you and maybe set up a meeting in a week or 2 from now, and just to check in with you and see how things are going. Make sure you let them know how you want to communicate. What's the best way for you? Is it through email? Is it through text message? Is it after hours? If there's an emergency, what is the best way to contact you? Be responsive, build consensus, be prepared. Again, don't make assumptions, always check for clarification. Make sure you're collaborating with your child's school. Build a relationship with your child's teachers and with the district. Don't wait for something bad or negative to happen to reach out. After the pandemic, I feel like everyone has some sort of feelings of disconnection in one way or another, and it's much more difficult to establish those relationships, in a really organic way, and with teachers, administrators, therapists. So send an email, it can be, or a handwritten note, or a request, to meet virtually if that's most convenient for you. Or, you could even do something really old fashioned and make a phone call. Next slide. So maintaining relationships, once you have a relationship that is established and built, it's work to maintain it, to keep that relationship going. How can you do that? Make sure that you don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't suffer in silence. If there's something you're unsure about or something that needs clarifying, ask. Address issues as they arise. If you keep talking and you keep staying engaged, the teacher and your child's team will continue to stay engaged too. Be confident in your expertise about your child. Parents and families and caregivers, are a crucial part of the team for your child's success. Check the facts before reacting, and be consistent and follow through in the things that you say that you are going to do. And I like this last point, especially. It says, we all like to be appreciated. So remember to say thank you, even if it's a difficult meeting, even if things didn't go exactly 100% the way that, you wanted them to, or even if, it's not every goal that you had set prior to the meeting was able to be addressed in the fashion that you had expected. Still say thank you, again, because we said, like, everyone likes to be appreciated, but also as a parent and a family member, you can make sure that you find out too, like, what is your child learning about? What is it that they need to know and learn to meet, like, the state learning standards? Talk with your child's team about that. Discuss concerns about your child's progress with the teacher and the team, and make sure that you guys are all working together to arrive at a solution and plan to support your child's success. And then sometimes relationships need a little bit of fixing, a little bit of repairing. And hopefully, as a parent or caregiver, hopefully you won't get to this part where you'll need to sort of fix or repair that relationship. But the best thing that you can do if you need to mend fences, so to speak, is to request a meeting. We all know that text messages and emails lots of times get misinterpreted because that tone is not there. And so if it's a face-to-face meeting, or even a meeting virtually, or a phone conference, that would be the best step to beginning to mend that relationship. Acknowledge your role in the problem. So if you misunderstood something, or if you jump to a conclusion, make sure that you own up to that. And that's something that's not always easy to do. Make sure to, if you're feeling defensive, try to identify that prior to your meeting with the teacher or the school administration, so that this way like that this is a hot button for me, and I'm going to have to be careful about that during this meeting. Don't blame one another, throw each other under the bus. Make sure that you get the information and facts that you need prior to the meeting, and always try to consider, the other person's point of view, which is not always easy to do. And if that doesn't work, you can always, contact the Center for Resolution and Justice and, ask for a neutral mediator to help you work at repairing your relationship with the district.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Teresa. It's now Laura Arrington. And I just want to do a little check-in right now and give you something to think about. So how is your child doing with learning so far this year? And I know you go, Laura, it's only like the second week of, full week of school, but how are they doing? Are they just okay? Is everything good? Do they feel a little nervous? Are they excited or confused? So your child may be feeling all of these right now, and that's okay. But it's always good for us to do a check-in. As you know, with both Parent Network and Starbridge, you can always give us a call, because if they're not doing so well, you can give us a call. Or if you're like, listen, we need to talk, we're here for you. So I think it's important for families to know that there's places to go if you're struggling. So one of the things on this slide I want to talk about is that, yes, the U.S. Surgeon General has issued an advisory on the mental health crisis with our youth. So what we know is before COVID-19 and this pandemic, there were some great mental health challenges, and they were actually the leading cause of disability for our young people. And what we have seen is a huge increase since COVID-19 and since our students have come back to school. So I think it's important that we acknowledge it and that we understand that this is where a lot of not only are us as families feeling, our children may be feeling, and schools and the people who teach our kids as well. Okay, next slide. Really important to understand that the quality of a school climate may be the single most predictive factor in any school's capacity to promote student achievement. Well, what does this mean? We call this connection before content, meaning we need to support and connect with our students in order for learning to take place. And this is why you may start to hear a lot of words at school about social emotional learning needs of students. We need to make sure that our kids feel safe and secure before they're ready to learn. And that is the most important piece. And we see this a lot with our students with behavioral challenges. We need to help them manage and understand their behavior in order for learning to take place. Okay, so next slide. So what is going on with school and what really happens in the first several weeks of school? And sometimes you go, wow, I feel like the same information is coming home. Well, it might be, because right now, what all teachers do in the very start of school is they start assessing their students. So they collect data and they want to see, and we want to get the information of what was the impact of school last year on our children. Do our children have any counseling needs, behavioral needs, social skills deficits? Where are they academically? What we know is that a lot of our children and families have suffered trauma or experienced trauma due to the pandemic, due to shutdown of schools or those hybrid models, and it impacts every student differently. So schools every single year are looking at what is the learning loss for each student and how do we get kids caught up? Okay, next slide. So we call that looking for regression, right? So it is, and it tends to be, especially for us families, and I will share with you that I have a son with autism. So it is one of our number one concerns is regression. And how do we get our kids caught up? So let's talk about that regression. It's important to remember every single student regresses. It's how do students recoup lost skills? So that's why the first few weeks of school are typically spent reviewing information from the previous year This is going to help our students get caught up. So it's important to understand also that our students who have disabilities take longer to regain those lost skills. So I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into what those lost skills are and what we can do and look for. Okay, next slide. So we call that educational regression. So it might be indicated by the student's inability to maintain levels due to lack of a skill or a set of competencies or knowledge. And we usually see it for students who are in school for July and August. And we, a lot of times, and I'm going to get into it in just a minute, we use an indicator to decide if students with disabilities should receive what is called ESY, or extended school year. And sometimes we always say summer school. So why do they get it and what does that mean? Okay. Next slide. So we're looking for, well, what does that mean? What does, educational regression mean? You're looking for things like a February break, right? Where students aren't in school, and we're looking to see how long it takes someone to regain a lost skill. If it takes longer than 8 weeks or more, it would indicate that what's called substantial regression has occurred. And this should be done throughout the year for students with disabilities to see if they would qualify for extended school year. So if after a week, it takes you 8 weeks to get caught up, it would say, well, somebody who's out of school for all of July and August may need services during the summer, quote unquote, extended school year, in order to keep maintaining just levels. Okay, so the next one. So again, we're looking at, when we talk about regression and recoupment. Is the student likely to lose skills and fail to gain those skills within a reasonable time frame when they return from instruction? We're going to collect data prior to the break and then data after the break to see how long it takes a student to recoup those skills. So remember when we talked about February break, a teacher would track how long it took a student with a disability, and I'm going to say an IEP, to regain skills. If it took them about 8 weeks to recoup these lost skills, then we have what's called substantial regression. If you're seeing this, if you're concerned about this, I do want you to start a conversation with the teacher after breaks. So we have breaks in December, we have big breaks in February, then there's usually an April break. Start talking with your child's teacher now. Are you documenting and looking for regression? And again, the regs say substantial. And can I see that information? I think that's all great things to stay in contact with your school for. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about what academic regression is, because there's several different types. So one of them could be forgetting how to sound out letters, needing reminders to use proper punctuation and capitalization, forgetting to carry or borrow numbers when adding or subtracting, forgetting how to properly form letters and numbers. For older students, it might be forgetting the basics of looking back in text for information, forgetting how to format or set up an essay, or not remembering formulas to arrive at a mathematical answer. All right, next slide. And then we have social and emotional regression. And some of you may be saying, hey, I've never heard of this before, but we're looking at this too, because without regular exposure to peers, some kids will forget those important social skills that can maybe make navigating classrooms and interactions at school challenging. So we're looking at things like not using an inside voice, blurting out answers in class, getting into people's personal space, sharing, learning to share with others, having a conversation, maybe not interrupting others when they're talking, or maybe, always talking about one specific topic and nothing else, using good listening skills. Do they seem anxious, nervous, or worried? So we want to look at, especially for our students with disabilities, do they need what's called explicit instruction on social skills? And that's remembering without regular practice, sometimes these skills can go away and it may take a while to come back. So we want to make sure if our students are having a hard time coping with coming back to school, especially if school's difficult or challenging, what types of things do we need to put in place and how can we help them navigate school again and be comfortable? Next slide. And now we want to look at behavior regression. So what could that look like? Well, sometimes lack of routine can lead to feelings of stress and anxiety and fear of the unknown. So maybe it's not following classroom expectations. And maybe it's acting out. And you can go ahead and click on that slide and shutting down, or maybe not following classroom routines. Great, thanks. Next slide. And then we also want to look at physical or other related service regressions. So what does that mean? Well, we're looking at speech, occupational therapy, speech and language, and physical therapy. So it could be losing fine and gross motor skills, not crossing maybe their midline, regression with pencil grips, needing more sensory input, or losing language skills. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about what the role is for a school district. Well, the role is to create a safe and healthy learning environment. Meeting social, emotional, and mental health needs of the student needs to be a priority. Providing students, all students, with access to a safe and inclusive learning environment. It's addressing loss of instructional time for all of our students. It's also looking at, and again, for some of our students, especially those who were during the pandemic, they were getting their supports and services online, looking at, is there anything that we need to make up, or do they need extra support in that we just weren't able to do because of the pandemic previously, and do we need to continue to help and support our families? And that's called, it's something called compensatory services. And what it's important to understand is if your child received compensatory services, that there's technically, as of today, and we're gonna say that as of just right now, there is no end date. So there's no guidance on, maybe they had tremendous loss from maybe receiving OT or PT, and there's so much service to make up that it might take 2 years of getting compensatory service, because to give it all in a year would make a student actually just exhausted. So those are things to keep in mind. And again, at Parent Network and at Starbridge, if you have questions about that, we're more than happy to support that. And the other thing that we need to look at, and this is really important for all of our students, wherever you live, do all of our students have equitable access to use of technology? And that means, do they need a computer? Do they not have a computer at home that we need to give students computers? Do they not have access to internet? And how can we get that for them? All right, next slide. And we need to build resiliency. So really, what is resiliency? It's our ability to bounce back from adversity and challenges, and it's how we learn to manage those. Sometimes it's like a muscle that we all have. We need to work it more times than others. So we start this, and I say schools, by assessing the needs of the students. And what do they need? We need to find out what works well. Where are they having the challenges? What did they learn from this? And how can we help and support them around this? Next slide. And resiliency is also for us as families. So what can we do? Well, we can set goals for our children and promote what I say, healthy risk taking. And I mean that in a safe environment, about sometimes being able to gently push our students or our children out of their comfort zone. And I mean a little, but let's say you are having a child who's really anxious and nervous, and going to school is a struggle. I always say to families, if they have young kids, can you take them over to the school and play on the playground equipment? Can you drive them by the school? Can you drive them around the school? Can they walk in? Can you go over? Can you visit? Exposure to anything that a child is feeling anxious about can always help them build resiliency. We want to embrace mistakes because this helps to promote a growth mindset and not what we call failure avoidance. And when we do, like, I'm not going to do this because if I avoid it, you know, I'm not going to fail, so I'm going to avoid it, then we don't build for our children the ability to build up their resiliency. It's okay to make mistakes. It's about talking about what could we do differently and giving a safe environment. We want to encourage responsible risks. I had a really good friend, and her son watched a movie where a young man like licked a flagpole and his tongue stuck to the flagpole. So I don't know if I would call that a responsible risk because he really wanted to try it. And he got the same result as that kid, you know, a little bandaged tongue, because there's not too much you can do about that. But again, he learned a lot from that. And so we do want to encourage, you know, being able to take a risk. Another thing that can really help with our kids is labeling difficult emotions. When stress kicks in, emotions runs high. So it's okay to say, it sounds like you're feeling anxious. It sounds like you're worried. It sounds like you may be sad. Can you tell me more about that? Can we talk about that? The best way to teach resilience for us as families is we need to model it. We do. Be careful. They hear us, they listen to us. And if you're nervous and scared about them going to school or their new teacher and they hear it, they're going to be nervous and scared. We all encounter stressful situations. We can use coping strategies. Deep breathing can be an effective way. Labeling our emotions, talking and walking through a problem, even giving them some words to say that might be helpful. But if we can do it, we can help our children do it too. Okay, next slide. So what else will we see this year? Well, will CSE meetings be virtual? It depends. I'm going to say, did this work for you as a family? If it worked for you and you need it, we saw a lot of families enjoy this because they didn't have to take 2 or 3 hours or a half day off from work. But if you felt very disconnected from a virtual CSE meeting, then by all means, let them know, and let them know early. Don't wait a day, don't wait 2 days before. Let them know early on, a month before your meeting. On your student's IEP, you can see the date of about their annual review. So let's say it's a March 2023. You can in your head say, okay, I might want to put something on my calendar to let them know in February, I really want an in-person or I really want a virtual meeting. So talk to your chairperson, help them prepare, and this helps you feel prepared as well for your meeting. Okay, next slide. And this one you can just go ahead and click. I think it's important, and I love giving people a couple of weeks to get used to our children and then maybe checking in. I always love a check-in within a few weeks. And what you can do is what's called a one-page document, and you can introduce your child. Now, you don't want to write a book. People will stop reading after a paragraph. I do. I'm just being honest. But maybe some pictures. Tell them a little bit about your life or your family. They're part of a family. Are they a brother or are they a sister? Do they like sports or games? Maybe they like animals or trips to the zoo. I know my son loves to go to the mall, so I would write that John loved to go to the mall. Are they a member of any outside organizations or different types of groups or faith groups? Is this a student who may need a little extra patience? What do they do well? And what do they find maybe that's a little more challenging or a struggle? What we want them to see is the person and the family behind the IEP. So you get the IEP, and I'm telling you right now, if whoever got my son's IEP who didn't know him, they would be like, oh boy, here comes John Arrington, I'm running the other way. And when you got to know him, you would find out he's funny, he likes jokes, he loves to throw pennies in the fountain, he loves to go bowling. He does well when he gets nervous with deep breathing. So we, take 5 deep breaths. Those are the types of things that are great to share with your child's school. And also, it's important for them to know maybe some special words or things that might help your child to move along, and see them as a person outside of that. Okay, next slide. Share your child's vision. Well, what does that mean? Well, in my family, I have 2 children, and I have a child with a disability and a child without a disability. I want the same vision for both of my children: healthy, happy, and productive. I know it'll look different for John, but I want the same thing, and I want to share that with the school. I want to tell them, what is our vision for our child? And then as they get older, let's incorporate our child into that vision. And I tell you this because if we as families don't let people know what our child's vision is, somebody else will. And it won't be our families, and it won't be our child's. So it's important to say, our vision for our child is this. And I believe in all my heart that that's the foundation of what every IEP should be based on. Okay, next slide. And here's what I know. As families and parents, you are the CEOs in your child's education. All these people sit around this table and they bring an expertise. The CSE chairperson may have the expertise of all the programs and resources of the school, the teacher, the curriculum, and what they need. But you are the expert in your child. We need you there, and we need you at this table. And that's why it's so important when things break down or you're feeling frustrated, give us a call. Talk to your care coordinator. Talk to one of us at Parent Network or Starbridge. Walk through that. Remember the steps of where am I getting information? Is it good information that I'm getting? And do I need to make a meeting or a call with the teacher or bring the team together? But you are an important part. And one day our children will leave school, as mine have, and it will be us. So we want to build that strength with you and your children to have the most fulfilling life possible. So with that, I will turn back on my webcam.
We do have one question before I'm going to go into a little bit of, how can you use your care coordinator to help you through all of this? But first, we have this question from a participant. It says, I have experienced there's not much information on special education on the website for the district. All information seems to be geared toward regular classroom agendas and activities. So what would you guys recommend for that? How could this parent help get that addressed?
So what I will tell you is please feel free to reach out to both of our websites, Parent Network and Starbridge. We have a lot of great information. And what we have found that sometimes family sharing, maybe the Part 200s, and those are the regulations for New York State on special education, or a parent's guide in plain language to special education, all on our website, all free on both of our websites, that sharing it with your school, that sometimes the school goes, oh, this is great information. And you can say, you know what? I think it's great to share that. Start with your chairperson and ask, hey, I've been out to the Starbridge or the Parent Network website, and they have some really great resources. You might want to share this. And you share it. You can be an ambassador of change as well. Share it with other families. Both of our agencies, including, person-centered services, we offer these really great trainings for families. Share that, pass that on to your friends, and let them know this information. I can't tell you, and Teresa, you probably encountered the same, that we hear from families all the time. Oh my gosh, I wish I had talked to you. I wish I had known this beforehand. And we say it's never too early. It's never too late. And I'm a big cheerleader for care coordination. I work with my care coordinator. I just received a new one, but my old one, Lindsay, was fabulous. And her and I talked all the time, and we brainstormed ideas, and it was great to chat about different things and just have another person to bounce it off. And sometimes she was like, hey, you know what you need, or hey, I have an idea. So sorry, Rachel, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but yeah, use your care coordinator and do it. We can do it together. All together, it's great.
Yeah, so your care coordinator is another member of your team who can help you, who's your support and your cheerleader and your advocate. So we really want you to involve your care coordinator. And the more you can do that, you have to make sure you sign off on consent for the care coordinator to be able to talk with your school. Otherwise, they can't. So, you know, that you can invite them to your IEP meetings. Absolutely. You can do connections with them. They can go to your school if it's okay with you and it's okay with the school to come and visit to say how's your student doing and things. So we can be as involved as you want us to be from the care coordination side, and we're happy to do it. And we're really here to just offer you even more support. Teresa, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and too, you know, when you want the care coordinator to come to the meetings, make sure you put it in writing. You know, you have a busy life as a parent, and you know what, the teachers, they have busy lives, you know, taking care of all of those students. And then aside from that, they have their own personal life as well. So just because you may have mentioned it in passing, don't assume that they're going to remember it. Put it in writing, you know, that you want your care coordinator to attend your child's meetings. I also wanted to add too, when the parent mentioned about, you know, not a lot of information about special education on the school district website. You know, and one thing to, you know, keep in mind is that when we talk about IEPs, that I is for individual. So, you know, your child's educational program, you know, their special education program is individualized. So there probably isn't going to be a ton of information about special education because it should all be tailored for your child's strengths and needs so that they can have a successful school year.
Great. We have a question in here. How do I receive care coordination services? So care coordination, as it stands for person-centered services, is under the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. So you have to have a diagnosed developmental disability. You can go right onto our website at personcenteredservices.com, and you can find, you can either put something in through the website, or you can call or email, so you can start to get connected to just even start the conversation. We are very happy to talk to you and try to get you in the right direction. Even if you don't have a developmental disability, we have some resources we can send you to that's not under ours. If it's not us, that's okay. We just want to make sure that you get the services that you need for your child. So, you know, feel free to go there. And if you have any trouble at all, you can reach out to me. My phone number, Jason's phone number and email, they're on our website too. And we are first name, last name. It's rmartin@personcenteredservices.com. You can email me and I'll get you connected. I actually oversee our intake department and happy to help you. We have another question in here. It says, my goal is to connect with other parents in this district for support. We have 1,200 students in special education. I have yet to meet parents with a child in special ed. So how can they get connected with other parents?
Sometimes the district may have a special education like parent committee or a parent resource center. That's one way to start. You can also, you know, contact Starbridge or Parent Network, because we offer, you know, parent and caregiver groups where, you know, prior to the pandemic, you know, they were usually sort of like regionally situated. For example, Parent Network, we have a group that's in the southern tier. That's many of the parents are from the Chautauqua area, but with the pandemic and the parent group being virtual, there's still a cluster of parents from Chautauqua, but there's also parents from Erie County and Wyoming and Genesee, and we even had a parent from Costa Rica pop on, you know, a couple of times. So, you know, use your parent center resources to get connected to other parents and families.
Right. And care coordinators also, you know, work with a lot of other parents too. So they may know some people. There's also the Donnie Family Committee, which is a great way to meet other people whose children or their family members have a disability. So they can get you connected to some of these other groups as well. Donnie is DDAWNY, it's Developmental Disabilities Alliance of Western New York. They have a website. The family committee is always welcoming to new members, and just having people participate in one meeting or getting super involved. So that's another great resource. Parent Network, again, great resource to get connected with all kinds of different people. And there's a great question, do you assist with front door access? Yes, absolutely. We make sure that people can get through the front door sessions. That's an Office for People with Developmental Disabilities program, the front door, meaning we get people through the front door so that they can then access all the services that they need. And you have to do that before you can get any of the services. But it kind of outlines and explains to you what all the different vast array of services could be for you. So yes, we can absolutely assist with that too.
We also have what we can rely on our district.
Yes, I think so. What if we cannot rely on our district? And I think that went along with the trying to get information. But if not, can you give us some more information in the chat?
And I'll just kind of toss some things out too, that if they feel that their district, doesn't have, again, go out to Parent Network Starbridge. We have a lot of tip sheets. We have access to other websites. We have videos of previous webinars. There's also really great, it's called Parent to Parent of New York State, and they can connect you with other parents. And again, we're just starting back up our regional parent groups to start getting people together. So, feel free to reach out to us, either one of us, depending on your area. And if you reached out to us and you are more in the Western New York area, we'll connect you with Teresa about, being a part of those groups and connecting with other families. And again, reach out to your care coordinator as well, that they may know of some in your area, some groups. There's all sorts of groups within the area, and or connect you with a SEPTA. I'm in the Rochester Finger Lakes area. There's a lot of big SEPTAs there. So you could talk to a SEPTA that's not in your school district about, how did you do this? How did you get this in your school district? So just some ideas out there for you if you needed them.
Laura, can you tell us what SEPTA stands for?
Oh, it's Special Education Parent, it's the Parent PTA. So it's the special education version of a PTA, if that makes sense. But some districts have that very specific name, almost like the name of, like, it's a brand name. And some just have a parent group. And then within areas, there may be very specific, like within our area, the Rochester area, there's a very strong group called Autism Up that works and focuses on that, on families who have children with autism. So again, depending on your area, just give us a call. And our agencies are also agencies that if you called us and you were from the Buffalo area or Western New York area, we would say, oh, let me give you the number for Parent Network and send you over in that direction. We're not going to say we don't help you, and they do the same thing. We go, what do you need? And we try to, give you the information and pass you along to who can help you.
So we have that they do have a SEPTA in this district that they're talking about. How can they get that advertised out to more parents, because their attendance seems pretty low? And I'll speak to my district, my own district for my kids, is we get them through our internal, like the parent email system, and through social media. That our district does a pretty good job of getting those out there to just even they feature our SEPTA. I think they just won an award. So they make sure they take the time to share that with all parents, because it could be beneficial to all parents at some point. You never know when you might want to be able to join that. So Laura and Teresa, do you have any other tips for them for how to get some more parent involvement?
Well, and that's, that's like the question of the pandemic, I think, is like, how do we get the word out there? Especially because I think, lots of parents and families and caregivers are feeling burnt out. So it may not be that they don't know about it. It may just be like, oh my goodness, I can't do one more thing right now. So it just could be that, you know, parents and families are overwhelmed, but certainly have a conversation with them about it, with the district about, you know, how can we get more families to attend, and maybe see if you know, it's always nice to offer an incentive too, whether it's, you know, pizza and wing night, or, you know, raffling off, you know, Bill's t-shirt from Wegmans, or, you know, something, maybe if there's some kind of funds available, you do get a lot more families in attendance lots of times if there's some sort of incentive there. Maybe it's a, you know, could be a transportation or a childcare issue if the meetings are in person. So, you know, maybe take a you know, a poll or do a focus group and find out, you know, what is it that, you know, is the challenge or barriers, you know, that are preventing families from attending the event.
And I would even look at maybe starting a social media page, like a Facebook page, and start a group and then start sharing it with your friends. See if you can get people to like it, invite people to like it. I know what we've done is we've had smaller groups say, you know, we're starting a SEPTA, we're starting a small parent group. Do you think Starbridge would share on their Facebook page like this information that we're starting it? And if you're in our area, can you contact me? We're more than happy to spread that news. So that other families can come out and get you connected, because it's all about, you know, how do we connect with families? I know there was a small group that had started regarding learning disabilities, and they said we really want to do an online group, but we need a platform, and we offered them to meet on our platform, and we said, you know, we'll host it via Zoom if you're interested, so that your families can connect. And so we've been doing that sometimes for some families. So I would say reach out to both of our agencies and see if there's something that we can do to help you get the word out to other families.
Yeah, and one more thing to consider too is if in person isn't working for people because it's too hard for them to be able to leave in the evenings or whenever your meetings are, that virtual might be a good option for you if you've tried. And sometimes it's either way, right? Sometimes people don't want to meet virtually. It's very easy to last minute not show up for a virtual meeting, even if you intended to, because things are hectic at home or you have other things going on. But sometimes that's more convenient for people. So think of things like times of day, days of the week that work best for the majority of people. It's tricky, it's very hard. I would also say the child care thing is a big thing. I would do a lot of parent trainings, and if there wasn't some kind of respite, or if their kids weren't also welcome to attend or feel welcome to attend, feel included, or like it was okay to be there, then it would turn some people away. So it's another thing to consider is, do you have the ability to have a bigger space with like a gym or something? Maybe the school would let you use their gym so that there's some, you know, basketballs and things that they could use, or kind of be able to go do something else while you have your meeting. And that's a different type of meeting too. So just some different things that you could potentially try. Great questions. I don't see any more questions at this point.
Yes, I think we've gone through all the questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to use the contact information provided on the slides. Ellen, can you go to the next slide, please?
That's actually the last slide that we have.
Okay.
We didn't have our person-centered services slide in here, but if you want to plug our how to stay connected.
Will do. Yes, so you can find us via personcenteredservices.com website. Our contact information was on the slides prior. We will, these are recorded, so this will be on our website as well. So if you have any questions, or if you want to just go back and review content or share content, it is on our website. Also, thank you for attending, and we have another Hot Topics webinar coming up on October 5th related to voting. It's called Get Out and Vote, What You Need to Know. We wanted to try to get as much information out before the midterm elections. So that's coming up on October 5th. It'll be from 12 to 1, the same as this presentation. But I would like to thank Laura, Teresa, and Rachel for sharing great information, and hopefully everyone found it useful. And again, if you need anything, please feel free to contact us. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.